Hello everyone, I'm Zelda Kelly with Psychic Secrets and welcome to this episode of Dark Tales with Zelda. Now if you haven't seen the Dark Tales before, well, these are real stories from clients who have called me with creepy readings, creepy stories. There's something creepy and scary about it, so viewing and listening discretion is advised. If you get a little upset with these things, you may want to move along, but we sure do love to have you. This is an exact replica of the cards that I laid out for this particular woman. Now, these aren't the same cards, but I always write them down in a notebook, and I started that when I first started readings online way back in the day. Now, this was a layout that this woman and I talked about for quite some time. Her name was Gracie. I can tell you that. Now, Gracie called me. She was a very nice and friendly woman. She had a great sense of humor. She told me she lived alone. She was in her mid-40s. She was a nurse. She seemed very grounded, very stable in her home. And this was a very good reading. But then later on, as she went into the reading, she was telling me that there was a circumstance in her home that was really, really worrying her. And that was a few times a month, and it had started about 6 months previously. A few times a month, her house would start to shake. And you could hear it shaking and rumbling, she said, and you could feel it. It was like an earthquake. Now, she lived in an area where they didn't have any earthquakes. There were no trains nearby. There was nothing, no fault lines, no anything that would shake her house. And she said then that there would be these loud booms. And she would describe it as a bowling ball being thrown down an alley, hitting the alley before it hit the pins. It was a crash sound, and it would do that several times. So we talked a little bit more. She knew that I was into the paranormal, and I was asking her, was there anything related to a loss in the home? Now, she said she did not know, but then she said that there was a loss of a previous in-law, family member that loved the home but was upset that she bought it, and there was like a contest of them buying it. That person actually passed away, and that was about 6 months prior. So she said that her money situation was good, everything was good, and she was actually calling me about a young man who happened to be a Virgo. This young man was also there a few times during one of these episodes, and she said the previous one was so horrible and terrible that they ended up leaving the home until they felt it was safe to come back again. This, she said, had gone on and to the point where they would call the police, and the police would come by and they couldn't find anything. There was nothing to look for, and definitely it was unexplained. She said she was afraid to live there because it would happen at any time of the day. It was not any particular time of the day. We talked here and there. We talked about her spiritual life and how she could work on gaining peace within herself, and how she may end up having to walk away. Suddenly, she got very quiet, and I said, "Is everything okay, Gracie?" And she said, "Yes, but I feel that this may start happening." And I said, "Oh my goodness, I really hope it doesn't happen. But if it happens with me on the phone, I am a witness to it." And she said, of any time that it would be happening, this would be the time. Then I started hearing. I heard dishes shaking. I heard rumbling, rattling, I heard things falling as though it was in a bad earthquake. The house was rumbling and shaking. You could tell that. I heard her. She actually sat on the floor so she wouldn't fall. And she kept saying, "Oh my God, Zelda, oh my God, what am I going to do? This is it, this is it." And then all of a sudden, I heard that same crashing sound, that same thud that just hit the floor like a bowling ball. And she described it correctly. That's the only way that I can tell you that it was. Pardon the kitty. And this was so loud that it was almost deafening. And I kept saying, "Gracie, are you there? Gracie, are you okay? Gracie, are you there? Gracie, are you there?" And then all of a sudden, I could hear her shuffling around on the phone, and she whispered, "Zelda, it's here." As I listened intently, the shaking started to subside. The whole atmosphere started to change, and it was quite frightening. Suddenly, the phone went dead, and I hung on to the phone, hoping that somehow we could be connected again. As I hung up, I called my office right away, I was working for a psychic line, and called them and said, "You've got to send the police out there for a wellness check." They did this immediately. I was hoping and praying that Gracie was okay. I collected myself and went on through the evening. The next day, my office called and said, "Zelda, are you sitting down?" And I said, "Yes, I am. What's going on?" And she said, "You know the client Gracie that you had last night?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "We have phone records that a call generated from the address of that property that we sent the police out for a wellness check." And I said, "Okay." And they said when the police got there, there was not only not a phone, but the home was abandoned. I felt the chills go over me. And this has happened more than once. And especially when you're a psychic medium and you work in the psychic arena, the paranormal, this happens. So as time went on, I was wondering what had happened. They never did find who Gracie was. They never did think or were able to find out what had happened. But upon further inspection, they noticed that the house, with one good shake, could have fallen in. And that was scary to them. There was no one there. There was no furniture. The windows were out. The grass was overgrown. It was not in a good neighborhood. And yet Gracie was on record of calling from this home. My question is, what was it who this Gracie from this property originated from? Who was it when she said, "Zelda, it's here"? Who was it? That's always been my question. Gracie, if you're out there somewhere, this is Zelda, and I sure would like to know that you're okay and that you're at peace. If you have any idea, you think you know what's going on, let me know. Write it in the comments. I sure would like to know. This one stumped me, and over the years I've thought about her. I just don't know. I heard it for myself. The loud noises. It's one of those things that you just can't get out of your mind. Thank you so much for listening. This is a true story and a scary one, and I got more behind this. So stop on over and believe me. And I want to make a comment here. This happened during a time where there were no cell phones, no internet, no nothing. It was all landlines, and the records proved to go back to that property with no phone and no nothing, no electricity, no nothing. One of the unexplained anomalies in our world. I have to chalk it up to that. Thank you so much, and thanks, the kitty thanks you too, for being here, and I'll see you again next time. You be well.